How's it going, YouTube? Prisco YGO here, coming at you with another deck profile. So it's kind of late, actually it's kind of early, and I decided to record a video at like 5 in the morning, but I've been doing some test hands with this deck and I really wanted to share it with you guys, because although you wouldn't think that there is any synergy between these two archetypes, but there is. And over the past 8 hours or so, I've been doing a lot of test hands, and a lot of the end boards that I'm building are pretty cool. So I decided to show you guys and share the deck with you guys and see if maybe the community, at least the Time Thief community that I have tried to build myself into, could help me with some suggestions to possibly make this deck a little bit better and maybe a little more competent, to say the least. But without further ado, you guys obviously seen the thumbnail and you've read the video's title. We are playing Time Thief Orcust, which means there's some really weird shit in here. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. So I've got the deck right here in front of me, just like always, and we're going to start off with the main deck. So we are playing 3 Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight. So this is the reason why I wanted to try to build these decks together, because he is a level 4, and even though he does eat up the normal summon, there are times where you're able to bring him back depending on your hand, and actually use him to make a rank 4, whether it be Redo or Perpetua or whatever. So he's pretty good in both aspects of the deck, and I wanted to obviously max out on him because he is a pretty solid normal summon. So we are playing 3 of him. Next, we are playing 2 copies of Cymbal Skeleton. The only reason I'm playing 2 is just because if I see one in my hand, I still want to be able to send one off of Nightmare, which we are actually playing 2 of. And again, same reason I'm playing 2 is because I still want to be able to dump one of these off of Girsu, so that I can continue to do my Orcust combo. And then in turn, I'm playing 2 copies of World Legacy World Wand, and once again, because if I see one in my hand, I still want to be able to send one. Cheeky little thing that I've learned is that if you have like a World Legacy World Wand in your hand and you use Nightmare to send the second copy, you can use the second copy's effect to summon the one from your hand, which means now you have follow-up for your next turn. And then the final Orcust card we are playing is the 1 copy of Brass Bombard, and that pretty much wraps up our Orcust engine. Going into our Time Thief stuff, we are playing 3 copies of Time Thief Regulator, pretty standard. There's nothing too new here. If you're playing less than 3, then you're probably playing a very, very weird Time Thief build. I do think that Regulator at 3 is 100% correct. And then to follow up with that, we are playing the 3 Winder, our Stratos, and then just for some context, right, for those of you who have never heard of Time Thieves before, Regulator is Rescue Cat. You normal summon this and you use its effect. It tributes itself for cost to summon 2 Time Thief monsters with different names other than himself from the deck in defense position. Keep in mind that the whole Time Thief gimmick is that they are level 4s, which will then climb into rank 4 XYZ monsters, and their boss monster being Time Thief Redoer. So with that being said, all the cards that surround the archetype are normally meant to help spam the board with more rank 4s and level 4s. So Winder here is your Stratos. For those of you who don't know, you could special summon him from your hand by detaching from any Xyz monster that you control. So Dingirsu is one of them. And then when he's summoned, you can search for any other Time Thief card in the archetype, again, other than himself, and add it to your hand. So you can see how that can be beneficial. The next Time Thief card, which is the newest addition, is Time Thief Adjuster. This card is like your Kagemuchi Knight, your Kage Takage, however you want to describe her. She also has a secondary effect that cannot be used in the same turn, but is still very useful. So if you normal summon or just summon a Time Thief monster in general, and this card is in your hand, you can then use her effect to summon herself to the field. So let's say you don't have a regulator in hand, but you do have Winder plus an adjuster. You can now normal summon Winder, right? Use Winder's effect as Chain Link 1 to search, Chain Link 2 adjuster, similar to Kagemuchi Knight and Tour Guide, right? So you still have that same interaction. The secondary effect that can be used if it's summoned off of a different effect or if it's normal summoned is that it can send any Time Thief card from your deck to the graveyard. So normally you send cards like Bezel Ship or Chrono Quarter, which we are playing 2 and 1 respectively. Bezel Ship is your DD Crow. It can also special summon itself from the graveyard by detaching from, again, any XYZ monster that you control. Dingirsu is an XYZ. You see where the synergy is starting to work. And then this one is if an XYZ monster leaves the field due to a card effect, well, it can special summon itself to the field, and then it sort of acts like a magic cylinder for 1 attack. It tributes itself for cost during your opponent's battle phase. Next damage that you take, your opponent takes instead, which can probably save you a turn if you find yourself in a tight situation. Its effect does come up. The next monster that I'm playing is just a generic extender that we don't really care about using. Raid Raptor Strangulanius has been seeing a lot of homes in a lot of Time Thief builds, specifically because this card, you can special summon it from your hand to the field as long as you control a dark monster. The entire deck is dark. And then on top of all of that, right, you lock yourselves into dark after you use this effect to summon himself. You don't care. The entire deck is dark. So there's that. On top of which, it's a level 4, so it does help you play out of a lot of sticky situations. I was considering playing these 2 cards right here, Raider's Wing, but this requires you to have an XYZ monster already established before you can utilize its effect, which is pretty much just a combination of Bezel Ship and Winder, because it can special summon itself from either the hand or graveyard by detaching from an XYZ monster you control. On top of which, a dark monster or an XYZ monster whose original attribute is dark gains the effect that your opponent cannot target it with card effects. Pretty good card, but it didn't find a place in our build because we are playing 41 cards. So I decided to go with this one since it's a lot more generic and doesn't require an XYZ monster. It is a lot easier to put on the field. And then for the last monsters, we are just playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring for our generic hand trap. For our spells, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. We are playing not just 1, not 2, but 3 copies of Time Thief Startup. I hate this card. It's a neg 1. This card sucks. But in this version of the deck, you can utilize it very well to 1, unbrick your hand, 2, allow you to combo off and like enormously. And I can show you guys a quick little combo tutorial in just a moment after the deck profile. But this card, as much as I hate it, it comes in clutch quite a lot. So even though it is a neg 1, its graveyard effect is really useful, especially in this version of the deck, because this card can reload Redoer all the way up and use so that you can use all 3 effects. So if you're playing this in this version of the deck, I think you should be playing 3. For the next card we are playing 2 copies of Orchestrated Return, and this is just for our draw power, because there are times where we're going to open up those bricky cards like the Orcust Nightmare or Legacy World one, and we really don't want those in our hand. If we happen to open up one of these alongside of those cards, we now have a +1, and those cards that we just sent from our hand to graveyard are going to in turn gain us more advantage. So it's not like we're even actually technically this card breaks us even. It's not a +1, However, in turn, because you're sending Nightmare and you're sending Wand or whatever, you end up going +1, which is why this card helps a lot in a deck that's pretty bricky like Orcust and like Time Thief. This card can help you dig so that you can get the cards that you need into your hand. And then the final two cards that we are playing is one Orchestrated Battle and one Time Thief Hack. The reason why I like Time Thief Hack is because it can protect your XYZ monsters from targeting and destruction from your opponent on the turn that they're summoned. Most of the time, we are summoning Dingirsu on our opponent's turn as long as we have a Babel up on the field. So Babel plus Hack allows us to protect our Dingirsu to make sure that it doesn't get hit by like a Gamma or an Imperm or whatever. On top of all of that, this card also says that an XYZ monster that has XYZ material that was originally owned by your opponent, you can use this effect to make it so that it can attack directly. So if you really need a push for damage with like Redoer, or if you're going into time, you really just need to just get some damage off and you don't want to have to try to attack over something else, you could just use this effect, target a Redoer when it has a material that's owned by your opponent because it's constantly stealing cards from your opponent's graveyard and from your opponent's deck, attack, and then win. Because either you went into time or you got that last little bit of damage off that you really needed and your opponent decided to wall up. Going into the traps, we are playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. If I wasn't already playing a lot of other traps in general, then I'd be playing Shade Brigandine. However, because I'm also playing other trap cards, which I'm going to show you in a minute, I decided that Infinite Impermanence was just inherently better because this card's really good this format. It's really good against decks like Tri-Brigade, Invoked, kinda Dragon Link depending on how their hand looks. But it also hurts a lot of other decks just in general, a lot of rogue decks. This card kind of shuts them down and kind of ends their turn depending on the deck itself. So that's it for that. For the last traps, we are playing 2 copies of Flyback. Simply, this is just because we want to attach one off of Perpetua to a Redoer. Also, if we happen to open one, then at least we can use this effect to attach the other one to Redoer, or we can use it to make sure that Redoer always has a monster or a spell so that we can get a draw off. On top of all of that, this acts as a pseudo DD Crow while it's in the graveyard to rip cards from your opponent's graveyard and attach them to your XYZ monsters. Specifically your Time Thief ones, by the way. The final 2 trap cards are Orcust Crescendo and Time Thief Retrograde. 2 counter traps, 2 very powerful counter traps within their own archetypes. Retrograde will negate the activation of any spell or trap and then attach it to Redoer, Perpetua, or Double Barrel. Crescendo, as long as you have a Galatea or a Longirsu up on the field, this is always live and negates the activation of any spell, trap, or monster effect on top of banishing them. So not only does it just completely get rid of the problem, but it also shuts down your opponent from ever being able to use it again by banishing it. In some decks, a lot of decks like to recycle their banished cards, such as Tri-Brigade and Orcust. So that is it for the 41 card main deck. On to the extra deck. For the XYZs, we are playing 2 copies of Time Thief Redoer. For those of you who don't know what he does, during the standby phase, yours or your opponent's, you can attach the top card of your opponent's deck to him as material. He also has a secondary effect, which is a quick effect, that says that you can detach materials from this card and then activate the following effects. So it doesn't detach for cost. If you detach a monster, you banish him until the end of the turn. When he comes back, it's not a summon, so he just comes back. If you detach a spell, then you draw a card. If you detach a trap, non-targeting, return 1 face-up card your opponent controls to the top of their deck. So you can use that during your opponent's or during your draw phase to like spin something back in like turn 3 or turn 4 or whatever, and then just take it from your opponent during the standby phase. On top of all of that, he's really hard to deal with because one, he doesn't target, he gains you advantage, and he's always bouncing himself out to make sure that he can avoid destruction and just, you know, a bunch of other things, on top of which he's just a really annoying card to deal with in general. We're also playing 2 copies of Time Thief Perpetua. She's the grind game of the Time Thief engine. As a quick effect, she can attach any Time Thief card from the main deck to any XYZ monster that you control, including Dingirsu, including like Evil Swarm Nightmare. She can even attach cards to Zeus, which we're not playing in this deck, by the way. Perpetua is insane, on top of which, during the standby phase, you can detach 1 card from her, or material from her, and special summon any Time Thief from your graveyard besides herself. So she cannot special summon another copy of herself, obviously. But that's why we play 2, because if we lose one, we want to make sure we still have access to another. But you can revive a Redoer, you can revive a Winder to get a search, you can revive a Chrono Quarter to have that Magic Cylinder effect, you can revive Bezel Ship to have the Decrow effect, you can revive Adjuster so that you can dump any Time Thief card, including one of these, from your deck to the graveyard. Following that up, we're playing 1 copy of Double Barrel. You can cut this if you want. I prefer to play it because the non-targeting negation as well as the non-targeting mind control effect do come up every once in a while, but that's more so in games. It's like a very simplified game state and you really just kind of want to say no to your opponent in a general sense. We're also playing 1 Evil Swarm Nightmare because it's a dark, level 4, and being able to just Book of Moon any problematic card that's not a link monster on your opponent's field, as long as it was special summoned, is pretty nuts. Having access to this is very good. And then finally, we're playing the 1 Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star. This card, just broken in general, its protection effect is very relevant. And then you can use Perpetua to continuously feed him cards so that the protection effect will always be active, on top of the non-targeting send to grave that he gets on summon. So that is it for the XYZs. Moving into the links, we are playing 1 Link Spider. This is just so that we can attempt to play through Nibiru, assuming we haven't already locked ourselves into Dark. We're also playing the 1 Link Karibo. This is just for your Girsu token, the World Legacy token that you summon off of Girsu, so that you can get into Galatea. And then speaking of Galatea, we are playing 2 of this mechanical waifu. She's the heart and soul of this deck. She allows you to set Orcust spell and traps from the deck to the field, so she can't get hit by an Ash. She can set Crescendo to your field, so you have that counter trap for your opponent's turn. She can set the Babble. She can set your return. It all depends on really what you want and what you need. She can do it for you, as well as recycling your banished machine monsters. The synergy here with Time Thief is that your ships, which tend to banish themselves after they use their effect from after being summoned from the graveyard, are machines. So if you go like Bezel Ship, summon itself using its own effect, then use its second effect so that you can like steal a card from your opponent's graveyard and then attach it to Redoer, it gets banished after it used that quick effect. Galatea can just recycle it back into the deck, which means now you have constant access to that same DD Crow as long as you're able to get it out of the deck however you need to, whether it be Perpetua, Flyback, or Winder. So Galatea does help with that. Also, side note, Dingirsu can special summon himself just by like slapping him on top of a Galatea, which makes it really good, very easy to make. On top of which, he has a secondary effect: attach any banished machine monster to him as material so that he has that protection effect. Moving into the rest of the links, we are playing 1 Barricade Board Blocker. No Lungirsu in this version. Finally, we're going into an IP Masquerena for our end board. This is pretty similar to like mid-range toss format Orcust, where you end on like IP Masquerena plus the Babble, maybe some set cards. It depends on what else you have. But in this version, You're running on IP Masquerena, a loaded graveyard with a Dingirsu, Redoer, possibly Perpetua, and some set cards, which just means more interruption, more interaction, and being able to just stop your opponent in general. So you'll go Orcust Nightmare, banish itself because it's a quick effect with Babel on the field, to summon Dingirsu. Dingirsu will use its effect to send any card from field to graveyard without targeting it, and then you can use IP Masquerena's effect to link summon on that same chain link if you want, to go into a Nightmare Unicorn, which will then target one card your opponent controls and spin it back to the deck. Finally, we have Boral Sword just to go into our OTK, kill your opponent on the next turn, and Boral Sword plus a Dingirsu on field is pretty much GG's. So that's it for the extra deck. That is it for the deck profile. And I did say I was going to show you a quick little combo tutorial, and it is technically a 3-card combo, but because this deck is full of 1, 2, 3, and fucking however many card full hand combos, it's not unheard of for like this hand to come up, because it's come up like at least 7 times in like 10 test hands, where I have a Regulator, a Girsu, and a startup, which is why I decided to play 3 startup, because if I can see these combination of cards, I'm pretty much chilling. We're just gonna add a second Ash Blossom, right? So these are our 2 other cards that are in hand, and if you give me 1 second, I'm just going to zoom out real quick, and I'll show you the entire field. That way you don't have to just have this very enclosed view. So give me 1 moment. All right, so I zoomed out and I've still got the cards here. So here's how this will play out. You'll go Startup, Special Regulator, use Regulator's effect, right? I'll move the grave over here to summon 2. So you're almost always going to summon a Adjuster and a Winder. So now you go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, because this was summoned by other means, not her own effect, which means you can use the dump effect. So Chainlink 1, Winder will search for your crescendo or your retrograde, and an Adjuster will dump your Bezel Ship to graveyard. Right here, go ahead and make your Redoer, and then immediately just use Redoer's effect. Banish him, you're good to go. Right? So now you have 4 cards in hand. One of them has been searched. Normal summon Girsu. Girsu's effect will activate, and you are going to send your, where are you? Orcust Nightmare to grave. Now you can use the second effect, which will summon a token to your field. Then you can link off the token and go into a Link Karibo. Now, link off those 2. Go into a Galatea. And you just go pretty much Orcust combo here. Use Nightmare's effect. Target your Galatea, send your World Wand. Now you use World Wand's effect to banish, summon your Nightmare. Galatea effect to spin this back to the deck, and now you have access to either one you want in either Crescendo or Babel, or if you have like something in hand that you really just want to put in graveyard and you want to draw 2 cards, you can go for Return. In this case, we're going to go for Babel. All right, so you now set your Babel to the field and then immediately activate it. All right, so this is what your graveyard is looking like right now. Right, so now you have some options. You can either go directly into Dingirsu, no effective Dingirsu, obviously, because we don't have anything to attach. We don't want to attach Redoer, plus I don't think you can anyway, right? Or if you went for Crescendo, don't even bother, just leave your Crescendo and your Galatea on field, set your retrograde, bring back your Redoer. Pretty self-explanatory. In this case, we're going to go into our Dingirsu, right? No effect, obviously. And then we can go into a bezel ship, right? Bezel ship's effect to detach from Galatea. And now we have a DD Crow on the field as well. Link these two off. Go into our IP Masquerena. Set our retrograde. Go to end phase. Redoer will return. Right? Pretty nice. Pretty nice. So essentially what we have is the ability to steal a card from the top of our opponent's deck, stealing a card from their graveyard, as well as negation for any spell or trap that might be problematic. So Dark Ruler No More, Droplets, Imperm, whatever. On top of that, we've still got 2 cards in hand, so those can be whatever we want them to be. Now, our Orcust Nightmare is a quick effect during our opponent's turn because we have Orchestrated Babble. So now we go Orcust Nightmare, send our Cymbal Skeleton. Cymbal Skeleton, target and summon Dingirsu. Dingirsu effect to send. IP Masquerena effect. Go into Unicorn. Unicorn effect to target and shuffle back by discarding. And then that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interactions. We kind of just took over our opponent's entire hand, or entire turn. So now essentially they've got 1 card, quote unquote, to try to deal with whatever you just put up. And if they don't have anything after that, then you kind of lose. Now granted, if you went and spun back everything, spun back to normal summon, negated whatever, and yada yada yada, then they still had that 1 card combo to just get them to where they need to be after all of that you just did. Nice. Good for them. Good for them. They drew like a god. They're probably better than you. Don't know. But essentially, that's what we've got out of that opening hand. There are some instances where you can potentially get more on field, and I will show you that really quickly, right? And so now let's say we still had that same opening hand, right? And instead of having the 2 ashes, we also opened a winder, right? The likelihood of us seeing 4 3-ofs in our hand, not uncommon, right? So this 5th card will be the ash. So you're just going to do the essentially the same thing. You're going to go startup, summon regulator effect. Instead of summoning our winder, we're going to now summon our bezel ship and our adjuster. Adjuster's effect, instead of sending a bezel ship to grave, is going to send our chrono quarter. So now, same thing, make our redo, winder first, detach, use its effect, grab this. Now use redoer's effect, detach, trigger the chrono quarter, bada bing bada boom. Normal summon Girsu. Use Girsu's effect to send your nightmare. No token, obviously. Link these off. This gets banished. Galatea. Now you go Nightmare effect. You're going to send your wand, right? Wand effect. Summon your Nightmare. Galatea effect to get your Babble, right? Pretty self-explanatory here. Now, make your Dingirsu. Girsu effect to attach this from banished. Now you go bezel ship effect, special summon itself by detaching that same chrono quarter. Right? Doesn't matter what you detach there, to be honest. Link 2. IP Masquerena. Make your whatever you want here. You can make Nightmare, or you can make Double Barrel, or you can make Perpetua. Most of the time I'm going for Perpetua anyway, so just gonna put our Perpetua here on the field, right? And we just went through that, essentially that same combo. End phase, well, before end phase, set our retrograde, redoer returns, quick effect Perpetua, target redoer, attach that flyback. So now we have even more with still that one card in hand. So yes, before I get all the hate in the combo in the comment sections, it's a 4-card combo, nice 4-card combo, 5-head. Yeah, no shit, it's a 4-card combo. The deck is full of 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5-card combos, right? I can end on more than this if I really wanted to with just one more card. But essentially, like, the point of the deck is to take your hand, right? You're taking two very bricky archetypes, putting them together. Take your hand and make the best out of it. So yes, it's a 4-card combo, but it's a pretty fucking good 4-card combo. So if you comment any dumb shit in my comment section, I'm probably just gonna block you. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. And I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you like what you saw, please consider giving me a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts down below. I really do appreciate all you guys that have been commenting on my videos and that have been dropping those thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Also, if you haven't stopped by any of my streams yet, the schedule is currently being reworked, but please consider stopping by my Twitch and dropping a follow, maybe subscribing if you'd like to support me even further. I've also got some merch coming out that you can buy directly from me through the Discord, like the mat that you saw in today's video. I've also got some tokens, field centers, and stuff like that that are normally just custom made. If you send me an image that you want me to make for you, then I will gladly do so. All the pricing is discussed in private, but generally speaking, the mats, at least the one that you saw in today's video, is $35 within the US. Outside of the US, you do have to cover the cost of shipping. And the tokens and field centers are about 10 to 15, depending on the quality of the image and the image that you send me itself, how hard it is to make them. With that being said, please consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell to be notified whenever I upload new videos. Also, if you are interested in participating in any Remote Duel Locals, I have teamed up with Imperial Gaming and Collectibles here in my home state of Connecticut to host Remote Duel Locals for them. These are official OTS events. There are OTS packs for entry, which is $5, as well as for top 3 or 4 if there's 10 or more people. I can show you all the dates right here, or right there on the side. And every Friday, any of the first place winners or any of the decks that I choose will be featured on the channel. If you've seen some of them in the past, those are all from Remote Duel Locals. They haven't been uploaded in a while, just because I've been having some difficulty with my stream setup, but I am getting it everything back up and running very soon. So be sure to stop by. I really do appreciate you watching all the way to the end. If you did make it all the way to the end, please leave a hashtag I made it to the end in the comment section. I would really appreciate all of that. So with that being said, thank you guys for being here. Remember to stay hydrated, stay goofy, stay healthy. I love you all. Deuces.